Can you even imagine it? Getting 45 of the biggest music stars on Earth. We're talking absolute legends, huge rivals, icons, all into one room for one single night to record one song? It sounds completely impossible, and yet on January 28th, 1985, it actually happened. So, let's get into the incredible story of how We Are the World was made.
So this was the very first thing every single artist saw when they walked into A&M Studios. And it wasn't just a suggestion. It was basically the mission statement for the entire night. The producer, the legendary Quincy Jones, he knew he was dealing with a once-in-a-lifetime collection of talent, and let's be honest, personalities. For this whole thing to work, the cause had to be way, way bigger than any single star in that room.
So why did this all even happen in the first place? Well, to really get the urgency of it, we have to rewind back to the end of 1984, when a truly devastating crisis was unfolding for the whole world to see.
You know, the images were just inescapable, and they were absolutely heartbreaking. News reports, especially coming from the BBC, were showing a level of suffering that just shocked everyone. It lit this fire, this powerful feeling that something had to be done, and the music community, well, it started to stir.
And the first move came from a true legend, Harry Belafonte. He saw what the British Band-Aid project did and felt this deep sense of responsibility. So he calls up this super manager, Ken Cragen, who had this brilliant idea. He pivoted from a one-off concert to a song, something that could raise money for years and years. And to pull that off, Cragen knew he needed the absolute heaviest hitters in the industry. Lionel Richie, at the peak of his fame, and the master himself, producer Quincy Jones.
Okay, so they've got the people, they've got a plan, but there was one gigantic problem. They didn't have a song. And with the date already locked in, Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson were suddenly facing this insane creative pressure. They had less than a month to write an anthem for the entire planet. No big deal, right?
And their process was just fascinating. I mean, instead of just trying to crank out another pop hit, they actually studied national anthems from all over the world. They wanted to tap into the musical DNA of unity and pride. The goal wasn't to be complicated, it was the total opposite. They needed a simple, almost hymn-like melody that felt instantly familiar, something truly universal.
And this is what they came up with. The lyrics are so straightforward, almost like a children's song, and that was exactly the point. It was a message so direct, so powerful, that you just couldn't misinterpret it. It was a call to action that anyone, anywhere on Earth, could understand, and more importantly, sing along to.
All right, so they have a song. But now for the real problem. How in the world do you get Michael Jackson, Bruce Springsteen, Stevie Wonder, and Bob Dylan all in the same place at the same time? It was this massive logistical nightmare that, it turns out, had a genius solution. Ken Cragen used the American Music Awards as the perfect trap. I mean, with Lionel Richie hosting the show, he knew basically every single star what he needed would be in that one building. The whole plan was top secret. As soon as the award show was over, the limos weren't heading to the fancy after-parties. They drove straight to the studio for a marathon session that would go all the way until sunrise.
45 of the world's biggest stars showed up. But of course, the media immediately focused on the one megastar who wasn't there. And that sparked a story that became a huge part of the legend of that night.
Yep, it was Prince. A solo line was actually written and saved just for him, setting up this potential epic vocal showdown with his rival, Michael Jackson. But Prince, who was apparently pretty uncomfortable with that huge crowd of artists, was a no-show. It became this massive story, even though he did end up contributing a track to the album later on.
So with all the artists assembled, the real work began. I mean, forget all the glamour of the award show they just left. This studio was about to become a pressure cooker of creativity. It was a long, emotional, and yeah, sometimes tense night of pure collaboration.
One of the most amazing, humanizing moments of the night involved a true giant, Bob Dylan. The legendary poet was so nervous and just unsure of the pop melody that he kind of froze up. So Quincy Jones cleared the room and Stevie Wonder sat down at the piano, and he didn't just play the notes for him. He sang the line with a perfect Bob Dylan impression, showing him how he could make it his own. And just like that, Dylan smiled, he relaxed, and he absolutely nailed it.
And the whole night was filled with these incredible little moments. You had Quincy Jones, like a vocal chemist, arranging the singers not by how famous they were, but by the unique sound and texture of their voices. Cyndi Lauper's noisy jewelry kept ruining takes. The country legend Waylon Jennings even walked out for a bit when a debate about singing a line in Swahili got a little too heated. And then there was the boss, Bruce Springsteen, totally exhausted from his massive Born in the USA tour, who just poured every last drop of energy into this raw, powerful solo that became the unforgettable climax of the whole song.
So after one grueling, truly historic night, the song was done. It was finished. Now it was time to release it to the world and see how this one recording would just explode into a cultural event that wrapped around the entire planet. The reaction was just immediate and totally overwhelming. In its first week, just the first week, We Are the World sold 800,000 copies. It didn't just top the charts, it completely obliterated them. It was a true phenomenon.
But the numbers that really mattered, they were even more staggering. The whole project, running under the name USA for Africa, raised over $63 million for humanitarian aid. To put that in perspective, in today's money, that's more than $160 million.
And then, this happened. In this just unprecedented show of unity, thousands of radio stations all across the globe synchronized their broadcasts. On Good Friday, at 10:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the world literally stopped to listen to one song all at the exact same time. It was a truly global moment, all powered by music.
Now look, a project this huge is never without some debate. The impact was undeniable. It funded immediate aid like food and medical supplies, but also long-term projects. At the same time, it faced some valid criticism. Some people argued it promoted a white savior narrative, portraying Africa as helpless. And others pointed out that while all the artists worked for free, it was a massive PR win for the record labels. It's a legacy that's both celebrated and, yeah, a little complicated.
And that really brings us to the final thought. That night happened at the absolute peak of the superstar era, right before the music world fractured into 1,000 different niches. It was a moment when music really felt like this global campfire everyone gathered around. But in today's fragmented, hyper-individual world, could you ever get all the stars to check their egos at the door for one single night again? It's a pretty powerful question to think about.